The fortress hung in the void like a metal beast, its surface covered in weapons and sensors. Inside, prisoners screamed in torture chambers while guards laughed at their pain. The Vraxians enjoyed causing suffering. It made them feel powerful. Taeyang moved through the dark corridors like smoke. His black suit absorbed light, making him nearly invisible. He had done missions like this 100 times before. Get in, steal the data, get out. Nobody needed to know his name. Nobody needed to remember his face. He pressed against a wall as 3 guards walked past. They were talking about the prisoner in the deep cells, the one they had captured last week. The Dragon Empress herself, they said with pride. The immortal ruler of the Kael'thar Empire. Now just another broken creature in a cage. Taeyang did not care about empresses or empires. He cared about his payment. The data core was 3 levels down, heavily guarded but accessible if you knew where the security blind spots were. And he always knew. The guards turned a corner. Taeyang moved again, silent as death. His hands found the access panel, and within seconds the door opened. The Vraxians relied too much on their weapons and not enough on their locks. Stupid. 2 more guards stood near the data core room. Taeyang pulled out a small device and threw it down the corridor. It made a soft clicking sound. The guards looked at each other and moved to investigate. Predictable. He slipped past them and entered the data core chamber. Rows of servers blinked with blue light. Somewhere in this metal forest was the information his client wanted. Fleet movements, weapon specifications, things that could shift the balance of power. Taeyang did not care about balance. He cared about surviving another day. His fingers flew over the console, bypassing security protocols that would have stopped most hackers. But Taeyang was not most hackers. He had been trained by people who made these systems look like children's toys, trained by people who no longer existed. The data began copying to his drive. 3 minutes. He could wait 3 minutes. Then he heard it. A sound that did not belong. A voice speaking words he had not heard in 300 years. Words in Old Terran, the dead language of a dead world. His hand moved to his weapon without thinking. That language should not exist anymore. Nobody spoke it. Nobody remembered it. The galaxy had made sure of that. The voice came from deeper in the fortress, from the direction of the prison cells. Taeyang looked at his drive. 2 minutes remaining. He should wait. He should finish the mission and leave. But that voice spoke his language. His real language. The one from before. He grabbed the drive even though the download was incomplete and moved toward the prison section. This was stupid. This would get him killed. But his feet kept moving anyway. The prison level smelled like blood and fear. Cells lined both sides of a long corridor, filled with creatures from a dozen species. They watched him pass with dead eyes, hope long since beaten out of them. The voice came from the last cell, the one built for special prisoners. Taeyang approached carefully. The guards here were different, bigger, and better armed. 4 of them stood outside the cell door. He could not fight 4 guards and win. Not in direct combat, so he would not fight fair. The electromagnetic pulse grenade rolled across the floor and detonated with a soft thump. The guards' weapons and armor died instantly. Taeyang moved before they could react, his blade finding throats and hearts with practiced precision. They died quietly, surprise frozen on their faces. He opened the cell door and stopped. The woman inside was chained to the wall with bonds that glowed with energy. Her scales shimmered like precious stones even in the dim light. Dragon-like horns curved back from her head and her eyes burned with ancient fire. She was beautiful and terrible at the same time. She looked at him and smiled with bloody teeth. "I knew someone would come," she said in Old Terran. "I did not expect it would be one of you." "I am nobody," Taeyang said, also in Old Terran. The words felt strange in his mouth after so long. "I am just here for data." "Liar." Her eyes studied him like he was a puzzle to solve. "You move like the old ones. You fight like them. You even smell like them under all that fear and hiding." "I do not know what you are talking about." He examined her chains. Military grade, designed to hold something incredibly strong. He had tools that might work. "The architect's shadow," she whispered. "That is what they called your kind. The humans who taught the galaxy to fear. The warriors who could not be broken." His hand stopped moving. Nobody should know that title. That belonged to a dead era, to people who had been erased from history. "The galaxy forgot your names," she continued. "They burned your worlds and scattered your people. They made it illegal to speak your language or remember your deeds. But I remember. I was there when your kind made the stars tremble." If you were there, then you watched them die. Taeyang's voice was hard. You watched and did nothing. I fought beside them. Her voice carried centuries of pain. I stood with Commander Seo Jin on Earth's last day. I held him as he died, whispering that his people would return. I have waited 300 years to keep that promise. The chains fell away under his tools. She stood slowly, testing her strength. Even wounded and tortured, she moved with the grace of a predator. You should not have waited, Taeyang said. There is nothing left to return to. Then why did you come for me? Why risk yourself for a voice speaking a dead language? She stepped closer. Because something in you remembers. Something in you still fights. Alarms screamed through the fortress. They had found the dead guards. We need to move, Taeyang said. He handed her a weapon from a dead guard. Can you fight? She laughed, and it sounded like thunder. Child, I was fighting wars when your ancestors were learning to make fire. Try to keep up. They ran through the corridors as guards poured in from every direction. Taeyang fought with precision. Every shot and movement calculated. But Haiwan fought like a force of nature, tearing through enemies with claws and stolen weapons, unstoppable as a storm. They reached his ship as the fortress turned all its weapons toward them. The small vessel should not have been able to escape so much firepower, but Taeyang knew tricks that modern pilots had forgotten. He flew like the old days, when human ships danced between enemy fire and laughed at death. Space opened up around them. The fortress fell away behind, still shooting uselessly at empty void. In the ship's small cabin, Haiwan watched him with those ancient eyes. What is your name? I do not use it anymore. Then I will call you what you are, Ghost, the ghost who walks between the living and the dead, belonging to neither. She sat down, exhausted but alive. I am Haiwan, Dragon Empress of the Kael'thar, and you, Ghost, have just become the most important human in the galaxy. I am not important. I am nobody. You are the last, she said softly. The last one who remembers how to fight like they did. The last one who carries their knowledge. And I'm going to help you remember everything else. Taeyang stared at the stars ahead. He had spent 300 years running from what he was. Maybe it was time to stop running. Welcome back, my ghost, Haiwan whispered. The galaxy forgot your name. Let us remind them why they should have remembered. The hidden station floated in a nebula where sensors could not reach. It was old, built from pieces of a dozen different civilizations, all of them gone now. Haiwan's fortress, she called it. Her last sanctuary in a galaxy that had grown too comfortable with lies. Taeyang walked through corridors filled with things that should not exist. Human weapons mounted on walls like museum pieces. Battle flags from Earth's final wars. Computer systems running code that the galaxy had banned. This place was a tomb for his species, preserved by a dragon who refused to forget. You kept all this, he said, running his hand along a wall panel marked with Terran script. Someone had to. Haiwan walked beside him, still recovering from her captivity but growing stronger every hour. The galaxy wanted to erase you. I made sure they could not erase everything. They entered a training hall where her warriors practiced combat. Kael'thar soldiers, each one twice the size of a human, their scales gleaming in the artificial light. They stopped when they saw Taeyang, staring at him like he was a ghost. This is Jun Ki, Haiwan said, gesturing to a young warrior who approached with curiosity in his eyes. He has studied the old human wars since he was a child. He believes your kind were the greatest warriors in history. Junki bowed deeply. It is an honor to meet you, instructor. The tales of the Void Templars inspire all who hear them. They are just tales, Taeyang said. Stories about people who died a long time ago. Are they? A cold voice came from across the room. A female Kael'thar stepped forward, her scales dark as midnight. Or are they warnings about a species too dangerous to live? I am Dayun, strategic advisor to the Empress, and I think bringing you here was a mistake. Da'un, Haiwan's voice carried warning. No, Empress. This needs to be said. Da'un faced Taeyang with open hostility. Humans nearly destroyed the galaxy with their hunger for conquest. They refused to cooperate, refused to submit to any authority. The council had no choice but to stop them. Taeyang felt old anger rising in his chest. The council was afraid that humans would never bow. So they killed us all. Men, women, children. Entire worlds burned because you could not control us. You proved them right, Da'un said. Your species was too dangerous. Enough. Haiwan stepped between them. Daun, you forget that I fought beside humans. I know what they truly were. Not monsters, not conquerors, just people who refused to be slaves. The tension hung heavy in the air. Finally, Daun bowed to her Empress and walked away, her disapproval clear. Junki looked embarrassed. Forgive her, instructor. She lost family in the human wars. Her judgment is clouded by pain. She is not wrong to be afraid, Taeyang said quietly. We were dangerous. We did terrible things. The question is whether I want to be that again. Haewon led him to a private chamber filled with holographic displays. Star maps, tactical databases recorded battles from the old wars. She activated one in the room filled with images of space combat. This was the Battle of Crimson Nebula, she said. 300 human ships against a fleet of 5,000. Everyone expected slaughter. But watch. The human fleet did not fight like anyone expected. They split into small groups, hit from unexpected angles, destroyed supply lines instead of fighting directly. The massive enemy fleet began to crumble, confused and divided. After 3 days, the humans won. This is what made you feared, Haewon said. Not superior weapons or numbers. Strategy, creativity, the willingness to do whatever necessary to survive. You fought like the universe owed you nothing, so you took everything. Taeyang watched the battle, memories stirring in his mind. He had been there. Not at this battle, but others like it. He remembered the feeling of outsmarting enemies that should have crushed him. The satisfaction of victory against impossible odds. Why are you showing me this, he asked. Because the Vraxians know we escaped. They know I am alive and they know a human helped me. They are hunting us. Haewon turned off the display. But worse, they found something else. A hidden colony. Thousands of humans living in secret, trying to survive. The Vraxians will kill them all unless someone stops them. Taeyang felt his blood go cold. How long? 2 weeks? Maybe less. Haewon watched his face carefully. I can provide ships and warriors. But they need a leader who understands human tactics. They need you. I am not a leader. I am just a mercenary who takes jobs and survives. Liar. She stepped closer. You are Instructor Taeyang of the 7th Void Legion. You trained the last generation of Templars before Earth fell. You survived when all your students died. And you have been running from that guilt for 300 years. His hands clenched into fists. How do you know that name? Seo Jin told me about you. He said you were the best tactical instructor humanity ever produced. He said if anyone could rebuild what was lost, it would be you. Her voice softened. He also said you blamed yourself for not dying with them. I should have died. I should have been on Earth when it burned. But you were not. You survived, and now you have a choice. Haewon activated another display showing images of the human colony. Families, children, people who did not know they were about to die. You can keep running, keep hiding, or you can be what you were trained to be. Taeyang stared at the faces, so young, so unaware of the danger coming for them. If I do this, people will die. My people, yours. War is not clean or honorable. It is blood and screaming and decisions that haunt you forever. I know, Haewon said. I have lived through countless wars. But I also know that some things are worth fighting for. Those people deserve a chance to live. Do you not think so? He thought about Earth, about his students so eager to learn, so confident they would change the galaxy. He had taught them everything he knew. Then he watched them march away to die while he remained behind to train the next group. He never got to train that next group. Earth burned before he could. I will need complete control, he said finally. No interference. No questioning my orders. If I do this, I do it my way. Agreed. And your warriors will hate it. Human tactics are not honorable. We cheat, we lie. We hit enemies when they are weak and run when they are strong. Your people value honor above all else. Then teach them why survival matters more than honor. Haewon smiled. I trust you, Ghost. Make me proud. Over the next days, Taeyang began training Haewon's warriors. They expected glory in direct combat. He gave them lessons in deception and psychological warfare. They wanted to charge the enemy head-on. He taught them to strike from shadows and retreat before retaliation. Junki adapted quickly, his admiration for human tactics overcoming his instincts. Others struggled. Some refused to learn, calling the methods cowardly. Taeyun watched every session with cold disapproval. You are teaching them to fight without honor, she said one day. I am teaching them to win, Taeyang replied. Honor is for people who can afford to lose. In the station's lower levels, he found something unexpected. A human woman, thin and scarred, working in the maintenance section. Her name was Yuna. She had been a slave in the Vraxian mines until Haywan's warriors freed her during a raid. "You are human," she said, staring at him with wide eyes. "A real human. I thought I would never see another one." "There are more of us than you think," Taeyang said. "Scattered, hidden, but alive. The Vraxians said humans were extinct. They said we were the last ones, kept alive only to work." Tears filled her eyes. "They said nobody was coming to save us." Taeyang felt something crack inside his chest. This woman represented what his species had become. Broken, enslaved, told they were nothing. "I am going to save a colony," he said. "Thousands of humans. Would you like to come?" Yuna nodded, unable to speak. He put a hand on her shoulder. "Then you need to learn to fight. Because I will not let anyone enslave you again, not while I am alive." 2 weeks passed too quickly. The fleet prepared to depart. 15 ships, small but fast, crewed by Kelthar warriors trained in human tactics. Taeyang stood on the command deck watching the stars. Haywan joined him. "Are you ready?" "No," he said honestly. "But I will do it anyway." That is the human way, is it not? To do impossible things because they must be done. She placed a hand on his shoulder. "Welcome back, instructor. The galaxy forgot what you were capable of. Let us remind them." The Vraxian fleet surrounded the asteroid colony like predators circling wounded prey. 30 warships, each one bristling with enough firepower to crack a planet. They knew the humans hiding inside could not fight back. This would be easy. This would be just another extermination. They did not know Taeyang was coming. His 15 ships approached from the shadow of a dead moon, sensors dark, engines running cold. The Kelthar warriors were nervous. They had trained in human tactics but never used them in real battle. Fighting honorably against visible enemies was one thing, striking from darkness like assassins was another. "All ships, this is instructor." Taeyang spoke into the communication system. "Remember your training. We do not fight fair. We do not give them a chance. We hit them where they are weak and we disappear before they can respond. Is that understood?" Affirmative signals came back from all 15 ships. Even Da-Un, commanding her own vessel, acknowledged the order with grudging respect. "Good. Junki, your squadron will hit their supply freighters first." "Not the warships. The freighters. Without supplies, those big ships are just metal coffins. Make them starve." "Yes, instructor." "Bora, your team will broadcast false signals across 17 different frequencies. I want them to think we have 50 ships, not 15. Confusion is a weapon. Use it. Understood, and all of you remember this." Taeyang's voice hardened. "We are here to save lives, not to die gloriously. If your ship is damaged, you retreat. If you are outnumbered, you run. Dead warriors save nobody. Am I clear?" Silence. This went against everything the Kelthar believed. Warriors did not retreat. Warriors did not run. Am I clear? Taeyang repeated, his voice like cold steel. "Yes, instructor," came the reluctant replies. The attack began at midnight station time. Junki's squadron appeared from nowhere, railguns tearing into the supply freighters before the Vraxians knew what was happening. 3 freighters exploded in seconds. The warships turned to respond, but Junki's ships were already gone, vanishing into the asteroid field. Then Bora's false signals began. The Vraxian sensors lit up with dozens of contacts, ships appearing in every direction. Their fleet commanders shouted conflicting orders, trying to determine which threats were real. Taeyang's own ship dove through the chaos, targeting communication relays. If the enemy could not coordinate, they could not fight effectively. His weapons found their marks with precision, destroying antenna arrays and sensor nodes. The Vraxian fleet began to fragment, individual ships acting on their own instead of as a unified force. "Target their command ship," Da-Un's voice came through the communication channel. "Without leadership, they will crumble." "No," Taeyang said. "We want their commander alive and scared. Scared people make mistakes. Dead people just make martyrs." He proved his point by crippling the command ship's engines instead of destroying it. The vessel went dark, drifting helplessly while its escorts tried to protect it. This forced the Vraxian fleet to divide its attention between attacking and defending, weakening both efforts. The battle continued for hours. Taeyang's ship struck and vanished like ghosts in the darkness. The Vraxians fired at shadows and hit nothing. Their ammunition depleted, their crews grew exhausted and frustrated. Instructor, 3 enemy ships are breaking formation, Junki reported. They are moving toward the colony. Let them. Taeyang watched his tactical display. Have you forgotten the mines we placed? The 3 ships accelerated toward the asteroid, eager to complete their mission. They never saw the mines until it was too late. Explosions rippled across their hulls, crippling engines and breaching armor. They drifted helplessly, disabled but not destroyed. Now comes the hard part, Taeyang said. We need to extract the colonists while the Vraxians are confused. All ships form up on my position. We are going in. The 15 ships emerged from hiding, flying in tight formation toward the colony. The remaining Vraxian vessels tried to intercept, but they were scattered and disorganized. Taeyang's fleet punched through their lines, taking damage but not stopping. Landing bays opened in the asteroid's surface. Taeyang's ship touched down first, and he was running before the ramps fully descended. Inside, thousands of humans waited, families clutching their belongings, children crying in fear. Yuna was there, helping organize the evacuation. She had insisted on coming, had demanded to help save her own people. Now she moved through the crowd, calm and strong, guiding people toward the ships. We have transport for 3,000, she reported to Taeyang. There are 4,000 here. Then we make 2 trips. He turned to Junki, who had landed his ship beside them. Get the children and elderly loaded first. Warriors stay behind to hold the position. Instructor, if we leave warriors behind, they might not survive. Then we better come back fast. Taeyang checked his weapon. Move, people. We do not have time for arguments. The first wave of colonists boarded the ships in organized chaos. Families separated, promising to reunite soon. The elderly moved slowly, their bodies weak from years of hiding. Children stared wide-eyed at the Kael'thar warriors, never having seen aliens who were not their enemies. Then the Vraxians counterattacked. Their ground forces poured into the colony, soldiers in heavy armor carrying weapons designed to kill everything they saw. They had regrouped faster than Taeyang expected. All combat personnel defensive positions, Taeyang ordered. Buy them time to finish loading. The Kael'thar warriors formed a perimeter, their natural armor making them living shields. Taeyang fought beside them, his human agility complementing their strength. The Vraxian soldiers pushed hard, willing to die to complete their extermination order. Junki took a blast to the shoulder, his scales cracking under the impact. He staggered but did not fall. Instructor, they are flanking from the east corridor. Then collapse that corridor. Use the charges. But our retreat path, we will find another path. Do it. Junki triggered the demolition charges. The eastern corridor imploded, burying dozens of Vraxian soldiers and cutting off their flanking attempt. But now Taeyang's group was trapped between enemies ahead and rubble behind. Ships loaded. Yuna's voice came through his communicator. We need to leave now. Go, get them to safety. We will hold here. Taeyang, that is an order, Yuna, go. The ships lifted off, their engines straining under the weight of 3,000 passengers. Vraxian fighters tried to intercept, but Dayun's squadron had been waiting for this. She dove into the fight with savage fury, her weapons tearing through enemy fighters like they were made of paper. Nobody touches those transports, she snarled over the communication channel. Not while I live. Taeyang watched the ships escape to safety, then turned back to the battle. 20 warriors remained with him, holding a position against hundreds of enemies. These were not good odds. These were exactly the kind of odds humans loved. Listen up, he said to the Kael'thar around him. The second wave is coming back for us. We just need to survive until then. So let us show these Vraxian bastards why you do not corner a warrior who has nothing to lose. They fought like demons. The Kael'thar used their strength and durability. Taeyang used his speed and tactics, turning every piece of debris into cover, every narrow passage into a choke point. They gave ground slowly, making the Vraxians pay for every meter with blood. Junki fought beside him, learning in real time how humans turned disadvantage into opportunity. When ammunition ran low, they used Vraxian weapons. When corridors became blocked, they made new paths through walls. When the enemy expected them to defend, they attacked instead. Hours passed like years. Then finally the ships returned. Instructor, this is Yuna. We are coming in fast. Be ready to move. The warriors fought toward the landing bay, a fighting retreat that left Vraxian bodies in their wake. The ships touched down under heavy fire, their armor scorched and smoking. Taeyang counted his people as they boarded. 18, 19, 20. Everyone accounted for, Junki shouted over the weapon fire. We can leave. But Taeyang saw movement in the shadows. More Vraxian soldiers preparing to fire on the loaded ships. If they launched now, those weapons would tear through their engines. Go without me, Taeyang said. Get them out. No. Junki grabbed his arm. We do not leave anyone behind. You taught us that. I also taught you that dead warriors save nobody. Taeyang pulled free. This is not a suggestion. He ran toward the Vraxian soldiers, weapon firing, drawing their attention away from the ships. The Vraxians turned to face this lone human charging their position. They thought he was insane. They were right. Taeyang hit them like a storm. His movements too fast to follow, his tactics unpredictable. He did not fight to win. He fought to buy seconds. Every second the Vraxians focused on him was another second the ships could prepare to launch. Then strong hands grabbed him from behind. Junki had not obeyed orders. The young warrior threw Taeyang over his shoulder and ran for the ship, scales absorbing the weapon fire meant for them both. They crashed through the ship's door as it was closing. The vessel lifted off immediately, engines screaming. Vraxian fire chased them into space, but Daun's squadron was there, providing cover. Taeyang lay on the deck, catching his breath. Junki sat beside him, bleeding from a dozen wounds, but grinning. You are a terrible student, Taeyang said. I learned from the best, Junki replied. You said warriors protect each other, so I protected you. The fleet regrouped in deep space. 4,000 humans safe, 15 ships damaged but intact, 22 Kelthar warriors wounded but all alive. Taeyang stood on the command deck, looking at the colonists through the observation window. Yuna was there, holding a child who had lost her parents in the evacuation. The woman who had been a slave was now someone else's hope. HFY appeared beside him. The galaxy will hear about this. They will know that humans are not extinct. They will know that someone is protecting them. Good, Taeyang said. Let them know. Let them be afraid. Is that what you want? Fear? He thought about that. No. I want them to remember why they should have left us alone. I want them to understand that humans do not surrender, do not break, do not fade away quietly. We survive, and we fight back. HFY smiled. Welcome back, warrior. The ghost is becoming solid again. News of the rescue spread through the underground networks like fire through dry grass. 4,000 humans saved from extermination. A fleet led by one of the old warriors, fighting with the tactics that once made the galaxy tremble. The story grew with each telling, becoming legend even while it was still happening. In slave camps across 100 worlds, humans heard the whispers. The ghost, they called him. The one who remembered. The one who came back. Taeyang did not feel like a legend. He felt tired. The rescued colonists were safe in HFY Station, but they were traumatized and afraid. 4,000 people who had spent years hiding, now thrust into a galaxy that wanted them dead. They looked at him like he had all the answers. He had no answers. Only more questions. The Galactic Council has issued a statement, Daun reported during the morning briefing. She no longer looked at Taeyang with open hostility, though respect had not yet replaced it. They are calling the rescue an act of terrorism. They claim we murdered innocent Vraxian soldiers. Innocent? Yuna laughed bitterly. She had become Taeyang's assistant, helping coordinate the refugees. Those soldiers were preparing to slaughter children. But we are the terrorists. It does not matter what they call us, Taeyang said. What matters is what they do next. HFY touched a control and a holographic display appeared, showing star maps marked with red indicators. Slave populations are rising up. Mining colonies, agricultural worlds, factory stations. Everywhere humans are kept in chains, they are fighting back. Because of us? Junki asked. Because of hope, HFY said. They heard that someone is fighting for them. They heard that humans can win, so they are choosing to fight rather than wait for death. Taeyang studied the map. Dozens of uprisings scattered across the galaxy. Uncoordinated. Desperate. Most of them would fail without support. We cannot save them all, Daun said, reading his thoughts. We barely have enough ships to defend this station. If we spread ourselves too thin, we lose everything. Then we do not spread thin. We concentrate our forces. Taeyang pointed to a cluster of 3 systems. These worlds are close together. If the uprisings can link up, support each other, they might actually succeed. We help them establish a foothold. One victory that others can build on. And the rest? Yuna's voice was quiet. Taeyang closed his eyes. The rest would die. He knew this. Command meant choosing who lived and who did not. It meant carrying the weight of those choices forever. The rest we remember, he said finally. We remember they tried. And we make sure their sacrifice means something. The planning took 3 days. 3 days while uprisings burned and died across the stars. 3 days while the Galactic Council debated how to respond to the human problem. 3 days while Taeyang tried not to think about all the people he could not save. Then the hammer fell. Directive Nightfall. Haewon read from the decoded transmission. Her voice was hollow. Total extermination of all human populations. No exceptions, no mercy. They are authorizing every member species to kill humans on sight. Silence filled the command center. Even Da-un looked shaken. It is genocide, Junki said. They are ordering genocide. They ordered it 300 years ago too, Taeyang said. They just did not call it that. They called it necessary. They called it protecting the galaxy. Now they are doing it again, and this time they are not pretending it is anything else. We have to do something, Yuna said. We will. Taeyang stood, his mind already working through possibilities. But not by fighting their fleets. We cannot win that war. We need to change the war itself, he turned to Haewon. You said you kept human archives. Do you have records of what really happened 300 years ago? The real history, not the Council's version? I have everything. Battle records, communications, diplomatic exchanges, all of it. Then we show the galaxy the truth. We broadcast proof that the Council murdered humans out of fear, not justice. We show them that they are doing it again. Force them to see what they are supporting. Da-un shook her head. Nobody will care. The galaxy does not want truth. It wants security. It wants to believe humans were monsters so they can feel righteous about killing you. Maybe, Taeyang said. But maybe some will care. Maybe some will question. And questions are how rebellions start. The Council Nexus, Haewon said slowly. Their central communication hub. If we could access their system, we could broadcast to every world in the galaxy simultaneously. But it is the most heavily defended location in known space. Then we do not attack it. Taeyang smiled without humor. We infiltrate it, just like I infiltrated the Vraxian fortress. Small team, fast insertion. Get in, upload the data, get out. That is suicide, Da-un said flatly. Probably, but it is better than doing nothing while our people die. Haewon studied him for a long moment. You do not expect to survive this. I stopped expecting to survive a long time ago. Every day since Earth burned has been borrowed time. If I can use that time to give our people a chance, then it is time well spent. I will not let you go alone. Empress. Do not argue with me, Ghost. I have lived for centuries. I have seen empires rise and fall. If this is my last act, let it be one worth remembering. She turned to her advisors. Da-un, you will command the defense of this station if we fail. Junki, you will lead the rescue operations in the 3-system cluster. Yuna, you will coordinate the refugees and make sure they have supplies and hope. I want to come with you, Yuna said. No. Your people need you here. They need to see a human face that is not running toward death. Haewon's voice softened. Stay alive, Yuna. Bear witness to what we do. Make sure they remember. The team assembled over the next day. Taeyang, Haewon, and 4 of her most skilled warriors. They would use a small stealth ship. Barely enough room for all of them, but fast and hard to detect. Bo-Ra, the former council archivist who had defected months earlier, provided the layout of the Nexus. Security is layered, she explained. Physical barriers, electronic countermeasures, and guard patrols. You will need to bypass all 3 simultaneously. We have done harder things, Taeyang said. No, you have not. This is impossible. Good. Impossible means they will not expect it. The night before departure, Taeyang walked through the refugee quarters. Children played with toys made from scrap metal. Adults tried to build some semblance of normal life in the station's corridors. They did not know what was about to happen. They only knew they were safe for now. Yuna found him watching a mother sing to her child. Do you think it will work? No, he said honestly. I think we will probably die trying. But I have to try anyway, because if I do not, who will? You could stay. Lead the defense here. You do not have to be the one who takes every risk. Yes, I do. Because I am the instructor. I am the one who survived when everyone else died. I owe them this, you owe them nothing. The dead do not demand payment, maybe not. But the living do. Those children deserve a galaxy that does not hunt them. If I die trying to give them that, then I die for something that matters. Yuna hugged him suddenly, fiercely. Come back alive, teacher. We need you. You need hope, he said gently. I am just the fool carrying it. The stealth ship launched at dawn station time. It slipped past Vraxian patrols, past Council defense stations, deeper into the heart of galactic civilization. Taegang piloted while Heiwan prepared the data upload. The files contained centuries of lies exposed in stark detail. 3 days of silent running brought them to the Nexus. It hung in space like a metal flower, beautiful and deadly. Thousands of ships protected it. Millions of soldiers staffed its defenses. It was impregnable. Ready? Taeyang asked. I have been ready for 300 years, Heiwan replied. They went in fast, using an emergency supply shuttle as cover. The ship's codes were outdated but still functional, granting them access to the outer docks. They landed among hundreds of other vessels, just another delivery in the endless flow of supplies. Inside, they moved like shadows. Taeyang's training let him predict patrol patterns. Heiwan's hacking skills bypassed electronic locks. The team penetrated deeper, closer to the central communication core. Then alarms shrieked through the complex. Someone had found their ship. The codes had triggered a delayed alert. Run, Taeyang ordered. We upload the data or we die trying. No middle ground. They fought through corridors filled with guards. 2 of Heiwan's warriors fell, buying time with their lives. The survivors pushed forward, desperate and determined. The communication core loomed ahead, a massive chamber filled with servers and data streams. Taeyang reached it first, connecting the upload device while Heiwan and the remaining warriors held the door. How long? Heiwan shouted over weapon fire. 2 minutes, Taeyang said, watching the progress bar. Maybe less. We do not have 2 minutes. Then make them. He turned, weapon in hand, and joined the defense. Council soldiers poured through every entrance, a tide of bodies and weapons. Taeyang fought with everything he had learned in 300 years. Beside him, Heiwan became the dragon of legend, terrible and beautiful in her fury. The upload bar reached 100%. Data began flooding across every communication channel in the galaxy. Battle footage from Earth's fall. Diplomatic records showing Council fear of human independence. Orders to exterminate civilian populations. Evidence of war crimes stretching back centuries. It is done, Taeyang said. The truth is out. Then let us go home. Heiwan grabbed his arm. They ran, leaving the remaining warriors to cover their retreat. The warriors knew this meant death. They chose it anyway, buying escape with their lives. Taeyang and Heiwan reached the docking bay to find their ship destroyed. Council forces surrounded them, weapons raised. Down, a commander ordered. Surrender or die. We do not surrender, Taeyang said. Then you die. Everyone dies eventually. We just made ours mean something. The commander raised his weapon, then hesitated. His communicator was broadcasting the files, showing him what his government had done, showing him the lies. Sir? One of his soldiers asked. Orders? The commander stared at Taeyang and Heiwan. Finally, he lowered his weapon. Get out of here, I never saw you. They stole a small craft and disappeared into the confusion as the Nexus erupted into chaos. Behind them, across 1 billion worlds, people watched the truth unfold on their screens. The lies exposed, the genocide revealed. The galaxy would never be the same. The broadcast changed everything and nothing. Across the galaxy, riots erupted as citizens confronted their governments about the lies. Some species withdrew their support from the Council. Others doubled down, insisting the extermination was still necessary, but the Council itself went silent. For 3 days, no orders came from the Nexus, no statements, no directives, nothing. The bureaucracy that ruled the galaxy had frozen in shock at its own exposed corruption. In those 3 days, Taeyang and Heiwan raced back to the hidden station. The journey took them through systems where both species celebrated them and others, where they were hunted with renewed fury. The truth had not made them safe. It had only made the fight more complicated. When they finally arrived home, exhausted and wounded, Yuna met them at the docking bay. Behind her stood representatives from a dozen different uprisings, humans who had traveled across the stars to meet the ghost. "They want to join you," Yuna said. "They want to fight under your command." Taeyang looked at the faces, scarred, determined, carrying weapons scavenged from their former masters. They were not soldiers. They were slaves who had chosen to become warriors. "I am not a general," he told them. "I am just someone who remembers how to fight." A man stepped forward, his arm ending in a crude prosthetic. "Then teach us to remember. Teach us to be what they feared." Before Taeyang could respond, alarms screamed through the station. Taeyun's voice came over the communication system, sharp with urgency. "Council forces incoming. Multiple fleets. Thousands of ships. This is the endgame, people. They are coming to finish what they started." Taeyang ran to the command center with Heywan beside him. The display showed a sight from nightmares. The largest military force ever assembled, ships from every council species all converging on the station's coordinates. "How long?" he asked. 6 hours, Daun reported. "We have 15 combat ships, maybe 20 if we count the refugee transports with weapons strapped to them. They have 3,000 warships, instructor. This is not a battle. This is an execution. Then we make them work for it." Taeyang studied the tactical display, his mind racing through possibilities. Every scenario ended in death, so he needed to change the scenario. "Heywan, how many people can we evacuate in 6 hours? Maybe half. If we start now and use every ship. But where do they go? The council will hunt them wherever they run. Then we do not run. We fight and we broadcast it. Let the galaxy watch in real time as they murder refugees. Let them see what righteousness looks like." Junki entered the command center, his scales still scarred from recent battles. "Instructor, the volunteers from the uprisings want to fight. They are untrained but willing." "Everyone who wants to leave, evacuate them now," Taeyang ordered. "Children, elderly, anyone who cannot fight. The rest, arm them with whatever we have. This station becomes our fortress." "We cannot win," Daun said quietly. "No, but we can show them that killing us has a price. We can make them remember that humans do not die quietly." The next hours were chaos. Ships departed carrying refugees while those who stayed behind prepared for war. Humans and Kelthar worked side by side, mounting weapons, reinforcing barriers, saying goodbyes they knew were final. Yuna refused to leave. "I was a slave who learned to stand. I will not run now." "You should live," Taeyang said. "Someone needs to remember what happened here. Then make sure I have something worth remembering." The council fleet arrived exactly on schedule, a wall of metal and death that blotted out the stars. A transmission came through, audio only. "Surrender immediately. Hand over all humans and those who harbor them. You will be judged for crimes against galactic peace." Taeyang opened a return channel. "This is Instructor Taeyang, last of the Void Templars. 300 years ago you tried to erase my species because we refused to bow. You burned our worlds, killed our children, and told yourselves it was necessary. Today, you come to finish the job. So let me ask you this, are you proud? Is this the galaxy you want to build? One where asking for freedom means death? Where survival is a crime, silence." Then the voice returned, angry now. "You had your chance. Now you die." The fleet opened fire. Thousands of weapons focused on one small station. The first wave of attacks shattered outer defenses, killed dozens, set entire sections on fire. But the defenders did not break. They returned fire with everything they had, their small weapons barely scratching the massive warships. Taeyang commanded from the central hub, directing fire, ordering tactical retreats, squeezing every possible advantage from a hopeless situation. Beside him, Heywan managed communications, broadcasting the battle across every channel she could hack. "Let them see," she said. "Let the whole galaxy watch what their council does to people asking for life." The battle raged for hours. The station slowly disintegrated under relentless bombardment. Sections vented into space. Corridors collapsed. Bodies piled up in the medical bays. But still the defenders fought, making the council pay for every meter with blood. Junki held the eastern docks until ammunition ran out, then held them with claws and teeth. Daeyun commanded her ship in a suicidal charge that destroyed a council cruiser before her vessel exploded. Yuna carried wounded through burning corridors, her hands blistered, her lungs filled with smoke, never stopping. And across the galaxy, billions watched. They watched Council warships massacre a refugee station. They watched humans and their allies fight with desperate courage against impossible odds. They watched and they began to question. On 100 worlds, military commanders received orders to mobilize against human targets and refused. Soldiers laid down their weapons. Citizens took to the streets demanding answers. The monolithic Council fleet continued its assault, but behind it, the political structure holding it together began to crack. In the command center, Tae-Yang watched his displays die one by one as systems failed. The station was dying. His people were dying. He had known this would happen. He had accepted it, but he had not expected what came next. New ships appeared on the failing sensors. Dozens, then hundreds, then thousands. Not Council vessels. Independent ships from 100 different species arriving to defend the station. They had seen the broadcasts. They had heard Tae-Yang's words, and they had chosen a side. "All ships, this is Captain Rena of the Free Merchant Alliance," a voice announced over open channels. "The Council does not speak for us. We stand with those who fight for freedom. This is Commander Nam-Su of the Frontier Defense Force. Our worlds remember when we were oppressed. We will not let it happen again. This is Admiral Hyun-jo, formerly of the Council Fleet. I can no longer serve an institution built on genocide. My ships stand with the refugees." More and more voices joined, a chorus of defiance. The Council Fleet found itself suddenly outnumbered, facing an alliance of the willing that should not exist. Species that had never cooperated before, united by a simple human who asked them to be better. The Council commander transmitted one final message. "This is treason. You are all traitors to galactic order." "No," Tae-Yang replied. "We are the beginning of a new order. One built on choice, not fear. One where survival is not a crime. Fire if you want. But know that the galaxy is watching, and history will remember who you were today." The Council fleet held position for a long moment. Then one by one, ships began to withdraw. Not all of them. Some stayed loyal to the end, but enough left that the battle became winnable. The tide turned. The Council forces retreated, their formation breaking apart. The Alliance pressed forward, not to destroy but to accept surrenders. By sunset station time, the fighting ended. The station was a ruin. Thousands dead, entire sections uninhabitable, but the survivors stood among the wreckage, victorious in a way that had nothing to do with military success. They had changed the galaxy. Tae-Yang sat in the shattered command center, too tired to stand. Hae-Won collapsed beside him, her scales cracked, her blood staining the floor. They had survived. Somehow. "The Council is finished," she said. "Not destroyed, but broken. The galaxy will never be the same. What comes next? That depends on you, Ghost. The Alliance wants you to lead. They want to build something new. I am not a politician. I am just a soldier. You are more than that. You are proof that survival is possible, that fighting back means something." She took his hand. "Besides, you have help. You have us." Over the following weeks, the fragments of galactic civilization began reorganizing. The Council existed in name only, its authority shattered. In its place, hundreds of independent governments formed, creating a complex web of alliances and treaties. Humanity received sovereignty over a small cluster of frontier systems. Not much, barely 100 worlds. But it was theirs. For the first time in 300 years, humans could build without hiding, could live without fear of extermination. Tae-Yang stood on the first officially recognized human colony, watching families build homes under an alien sun. Children who would never know slavery. Adults who could simply exist without that existence being a crime. Hae-Won joined him, no longer an empress, but still carrying herself like royalty. What will they call this world? He thought about Earth, the world he had lost. About his students who died believing in a better future. About 300 years of running and hiding and fighting. "Hope," he said. "We will call it hope, because that is what we are building." "And what about you? What will the Ghost do now that the war is over?" "The war is never over. There will always be someone who wants to take this away. Someone who thinks humans are too dangerous to exist. So I will stay. I will teach. I will make sure the next generation knows how to fight if they must and how to build if they can." She smiled. "You have changed, Ghost. You are not running anymore." "No. I found something worth standing still for." Years passed. The human worlds grew. Children born free learned about the dark times from teachers who had lived them. The galaxy settled into a new normal, one where humanity existed as equals rather than slaves or memories. Taeyang trained a new generation, not of warriors but of defenders. People who understood that peace was built on the foundation of being strong enough, that others chose not to test you. He was no longer the ghost. He was the instructor again, teaching lessons learned through centuries of pain. And sometimes on quiet nights he would stand under the stars with Haewon beside him, two survivors of fallen empires watching the lights of a civilization they had helped create. "Do you think they will remember?" she asked once. "Not just what we did, but why. They will remember because we will make sure of it. Every child will know that freedom is not given. It is fought for, bled for, died for. They will know that their ancestors refused to surrender, refused to fade away, refused to let the galaxy forget them. And your name? Will they remember Taeyang?" He smiled. "Names do not matter. What matters is what we built. Let history remember the ghost if it wants. I will be content knowing that somewhere, a human child is growing up free because we fought for that freedom." She leaned against him, this ancient dragon who had waited centuries to see humanity rise again. "Welcome home, instructor. The galaxy tried to forget your name, but here among your people you will always be remembered." Together they watched the dawn break over hope, the first day of a future they had carved from the ashes of the past. The galaxy had tried to erase humanity. Instead, humanity had taught the galaxy what it meant to survive. And in the end, that made all the difference.